Hello, everyone. My name is AZ Hubbard, your host of SAVEDNews TV. And today we're talking about the indictment of Tom Keesee, who is the son of Gary and Drenda Keesee of Faith Life Church. One thing as we cover this story that I'm finding interesting on the articles that we are finding, it is almost like they are trying to separate the fact that Tom Keesee is Gary and Drenda's son. If you have followed this case, this is a mega church and they have a mega ministry and are also well known and a close ally of Joni Lamb and Daystar TV. So, before what we're going to do today is we're going to watch the video of the indictment. But before we do that, I'm going to read you a little bit of this, and I want you to be able to get a gist if you have not been following what is going on. So, the son of the new Albany megachurch founders is facing additional charges of rape after a grand jury indicted him on Monday, court documents show. The grand jury indicted him, well, Gary Thomas, quote, Tom Keesee Jr., 36, on nearly 30 counts, including 11 counts of rape, 11 of gross sexual impositions, and 5 of unlawful sex conduct with a minor in Knox County Common Pleas Court. Detectives arrested Keesee April 18th at his Johnstown home, according to the news release of the Licking County Sheriff's Department. He remained in Licking County Jail as of Monday afternoon. Licking County prosecutors charged Keesee, former chief media officer for Faith Life Church, with 2 counts of rape on Friday before the grand jury delivered the additional charges. Several women have alleged Keesee groomed them when they were minors into trusting him and then had with them, the dispatch previously reported. Now, this article is coming from the Columbus Dispatch, and the author of it is Jose Perez. Okay? So, according to the indictment, Kesey committed the alleged acts of rape between May 2002 and November 2006. He resigned from his position at the church in August. During the press conference on April 21st, Licking County prosecutor Jenny Wells said investigators have spoken to around 40 witnesses and that the indictment involves 3 victims who have come forward. The investigation remains ongoing, and that the victims were 6 to 15 at the time of the alleged abuse and were members of the church at some point, Wells said. She added that evidence to this point shows the alleged acts didn't happen inside the church. These courageous young women have spoken out and come forward, and they are to be commended for their bravery and support, Wells said. They are very serious charges that we consider. So anyway, I'm not going to just read this. What we're going to do now is let you watch the video of the press conference indictment. So let's get to this right now.
Good afternoon. You folks ready? Good afternoon. I'm Licking County Sheriff Randy Thorpe, and here present with me today is Licking County Prosecutor Jenny Wells.
Lieutenant.
Captain Jay Cook, Captain Gus Moore, Chief Deputy Chad Dennis, and Chief Deputy Chris Barbuda. As many of you probably may be aware of, earlier today, the Knox County Grand Jury returned a 27-count indictment against Gary Thomas Keesee, Jr. on various sex-related criminal offenses. I would just like to talk a little bit about the investigation process. Licking County received this case on February 7th. So over the period of a couple of months, these investigators worked hard, spoke to many various, I want to say, witnesses, victims, and the result is the indictments that were returned today. It's been a case that's drawn a lot of attention, but I just want to make sure everyone realizes that our focus is on the victims. That's what matters to us. The victims in this case, unfortunately, had to wait. It's my understanding that that there were victims that came forward as early as December. We received the case in February. There were a couple of agencies that looked at doing the investigation. They opted not to for their reasons. But when we were asked, we felt obligated, the churches in our county, and we felt that justice wasn't being served to these victims. So that was our purpose for taking the case. As for the indictments and the breakdown of that, I'll let Jenny Wells speak to that.
Thank you, Sheriff. Good afternoon. Thanks everybody for coming here today. I do want to commend the Licking County Sheriff's Office for their extensive investigation, which led to the case being presented today to the Knox County Grand Jury. They did a thorough investigation that took them to multiple states and led them to tracking down somewhere near 40 witnesses that they've interviewed. And this case is far from over at this point. But as the sheriff said, it was time for us to move forward with the information we had at this time and present the case. So today, the Knox County heard testimony and did return that 27 indictment the sheriff spoke about, involving 3 victims of sexual abuse who have come forward. These courageous young women have spoken out and come forward, and they are to be commended for their bravery and supported. They're very serious charges that we've considered and the grand jury voted on: 11 counts of rape, 11 counts of gross sexual imposition, and 5 counts of unlawful sexual conduct with a minor. And as I indicated, that the investigation is still ongoing, and we simply would ask, and I'm asking on behalf of the Sheriff's Office as well, that anyone who has any information or anybody who has been a victim, that they still can come forward and share that information with law enforcement so they can conduct an interview. Any questions or anything else?
Out of the victims, the 3 victims, with respect to what were their ages?
Sure.
When they alleged assault act?
Sure. The victims' ages range from approximately 6 years of age to 15 years of age. And that includes all 3. Some obviously were only 6 or 7. One was 10. And the other victim, it was a long term from approximately 8 until 15.
So could this any of the abuse to the church?
What does that mean? I'm not sure I understand. Have I connected any?
Did the victims have any association with the church, and did any of the abuse have any relationship to what his job was at the church?
All of these victims that have come forward so far were members of the church at some point or another, having though grown up in the church since they were young. So there is no evidence that we received up to this point of anything occurring in the church or at the church.
At the time of it, with where the investigation stands now, is there a sense of how many victims are involved at this point, and any sense if any more victims may come forward?
As I indicated, we have indicted. The grand jury returned indictments on 3 victims, and those are who that have come forward and disclosed sexual abuse.
Sheriff, you mentioned earlier how this is all about the victims. I mean, this is extremely hard to just read this indictment. What has this been like this last month or so? Talking to those 40 witnesses, talking to these victims and investigating this case.
Can I let one of the investigators speak to that?
I'd like you to stay up to the podium. Sure. As they stated, we were handed over the case. We began the initial interviews and then obviously speaking with the victims. It's kind of sad to say our part of this is easy. It's all about the victims. It's them retelling their story. So we tried to minimize, them retelling it. So again, the focus is on the victims and the hard part's on the victims.
Do you know any reason as to, why they chose to come forward now? And also, if other people are talking about coming forward, if those witnesses that you talked to had some sort of relation to these victims, do you know any connections?
As the prosecutor mentioned, they were all members of the church. This case is far from over. There are others we want to speak to. So I don't really want to comment on where we're going futuristically with the investigation.
And I would add, disclosure of sexual abuse is a very personal decision. So the why is a very difficult thing to answer.
A question for Jenny Rose. So Tom Keesee was a minor when the abuse occurred?
Some of the charges that he's been indicted on did occur are during the time period when he was under the age of 18.
So after the prosecutorial sense, what happens is a charge to prosecute as a minor? Or?
Since he is over the age of 21, common pleas court has jurisdiction on all those offenses. And so it just goes along with the adult charges as well. And then the court takes that into consideration at the time of sentencing after trial. But that's the only distinction.
You see did you say you're around 40 witnesses that were spoken?
I believe that's correct. Is that
a specific number then? Is that?
It's not exactly 40. It is around 40. I can't remember, 38, 42. I'm not sure. Somewhere around there.
Do you believe that the abuse ended in 2011, or is there any concern that anything happened between 2011 to present day?
Based upon the disclosures from the victims, 2011 is the last information that we have of victimization.
The churches said that there were two suspects. Can you confirm this? There were two people involved in sexual abuse allegations?
Lieutenant,
I can comment on that. There has been allegations against two separate suspects. However, the only one we investigated was Tom. I believe Fairfield County Sheriff's Office is handling the other case.
Fairfield County is...
Based upon the information that was disclosed, that the acts occurred in Fairfield County.
Can you talk about how his role at the church did it give him any access to these victims, and did his role at the church have anything to do with how he was able to victimize this?
So I'm going to indicate kind of what my general thought is on sharing information, that the case will be tried in court and the evidence will be disclosed in the courtroom. I think based upon the disclosures from these young ladies, that his role in the church changed over time, and some of these offenses were occurring as a juvenile as well when he did not have authority in the church.
Do the allegations in the Fairfield County case involve sexual assault as well?
I would refer you to the Fairfield County Sheriff's Office. We've done no part of that investigation. They're just kind of running parallel with ours.
Has bond set at, and what's the next step?
Bond has not been set yet. He will be appearing on Wednesday at 1 o'clock in Knox County Common Pleas Court for a bond hearing and arraignment.
Was there any reason he had to be arrested on Friday?
That was an investigative decision that we make.
Because some of these offenses took place when he's a minor, are there any other adults who could be charged in this case?
Again, I'll say the investigation is ongoing. We're just going to leave it at that.
Is he considered flight risk?
I would certainly make that argument that he is considered a flight risk given the serious nature of these charges, one of which carries a 10-year mandatory to life in prison if convicted. So yes, I would say that.
What comes next for you guys?
Arraignment, Wednesday. As I indicated, law enforcement's still investigating. So they're still continuing to work on this case and do other things. But for court, it'll be the arraignment and the bond hearing on Wednesday. And then the case will be set for trial.
I think will the trial take place here in Licking County? I know the grand jury was in Knox County, so we're going to keep it.
It will be in Knox County, yes.
I had spoken to the source earlier on, and this might be for you. What's your name?
Gus Moore.
Gus. That a detective had been contacting someone about financial mishandlings from the church. Is that something that was a part of the scope of this investigation, or is that something that you're going to be investigating in future?
As far as the financials, that was not our investigation. We did not go into that. Our focus, again, was on the sexual assault allegations. I know that there was some information given to us, and it's been passed on to the proper investigative unit, but we are not currently investigating it.
Which unit would that be?
And we contacted the state with it, which, as you've seen, I believe they did an investigation in 22, maybe?
Correct. So it's with this Attorney General's office then?
We passed it on. Whether they reopened that investigation, I don't know.
Will you be transferred to Knox County Jail, and if so, when?
Our understanding is we are going to be housing them in lieu of Knox County. And so, no, he will be housed here.
Can you speak about how Licking County got to take the case from Knox County because the Attorney General won it?
Sure. Knox County prosecutor Chip McConville contacted me and asked me if I would consider taking the case as special prosecutor, given that there was a lot of information surrounding the church being in Licking County, and the Licking County Sheriff's Office taking the investigation. I thought it'd be appropriate for me to take the case. So that's how.
So going in.
Yes.
Why were his parents subpoenaed? Why were Mr. Keese's parents subpoenaed to appear before the grand jury?
That was a prosecutorial decision that I made to have them come in and give information at the grand jury. They had not made a statement to law enforcement at that time. Prior to that,
Did they cooperate or to this?
I'm not gonna comment on that.
Jenny, you said that correct me if I'm wrong, but out of state and spoke to different witnesses. Are the 3 victims still here in this community in Central Ohio, or have they?
Some of the victims have relocated to different states.
And I'm curious, did any of those victims talk to each other before all this started coming out? They know, hey, this was happening in somebody else.
I would say that all of these victims knew each other as children. And that's what I'll say at them.
Could you mention his parents has everybody else at the church been cooperative throughout this investigation?
We've spoke with many members of the church, and they've met for interviews, yes.
And were some of the witnesses former members, current members? Are you able to disclose that?
All of the above.
So that
Is he already kind of suicide watch?
The suicide watch, correct? Is it? I believe he's a loss.
All right. Thank you.
Again, we would urge folks, if you have any additional information relative to the current charges, if you've been victimized, we would certainly urge you to reach out to our office, and I can assure you that we will take care of it, and there will be a full investigation. So I just want to make sure we get that back out. So, thank you.
That's good to hear.
All right, everyone. Well, you saw the 27 indictments come down and the press conference on Tom Keesee. So please let me know what you think in the comments. How do you feel about this case? It seems like there's a lot of malfeasance going on into the house of God. And there are plenty of videos out there sharing about what was leading up to this. We want to know what your thoughts are. We want to know how you feel that this should proceed. Do you feel like there's a concerted effort to keep Gary and Drenda Keese's name out of this, even though the Keesee father did post an apology video about a month or so ago. And this has really gotten out of hand, everybody. We want your comments. We want to know how you feel. Do you watch them on Daystar? Are you still a fan? You know the things that's going on over there on Daystar. Get in the comments. Tell me how you feel. Tell me if you have any information. Do you want us to continue to cover this story? All right, everybody. Also, stay tuned. We have a couple of videos coming up because I want you to make sure you like, share, and subscribe. This is a lot of work. I want to make sure you stay a part of the crew. All right, everybody. Bless you. Bye.
I'm writing lines to lift his name, no need for fame. My spirit fed, his word is spread, saves the aim. Pen to paper, I'm writing lines to lift his name, no need for fame. My spirit fed, his word is spread, saves the aim. Pen to paper, truths I scribe, a soulful vibe. To glorify the Most High, let's amplify. I am spreading the faith I hold so dear. For every tear he's ever near. Choirs rise on Sunday morn, his love we adorn. Each melody a testimony, hearts reborn. In every I'm writing lines to lift his name, no need for fame. My spirit fed, his word is spread, saves the aim. Pen to paper, truths I